Hey there, welcome listeners to another episode of Business Breakthroughs. I'm Neal Dipentino. I'm the president of Titan Media Works, and I'm your host on today's show where we're going to break through the BS, get to the real world advice and direction from those who are and have been deep down in the trenches. Today, I have a remarkable guest with us, a very unique guest with us, Michelle Paradis. She's a professional who partners with surgeons to transform operating rooms into a collaborative and competent space. So, Michelle, we're going to talk about that. You're going to tell us all about that here on the show. Welcome. I appreciate you being here.
Well, thank you so much, Neal. So great to be here. Excuse
Absolutely. Now, you're there in beautiful Charleston, South Carolina, which one of my favorite places ever to go and visit and spend time. So, I mean, what a wonderful life you have.
It is. I really love it.
Absolutely.
I'm from Canada. I'm French Canadian. And
okay.
So when my ex-husband and I moved down here in 2016, actually, I just fell in love. It's such a beautiful city. The sun, the people, the vegetation, it's all fantastic. I just love it.
Oh, it's a very unique area and the food is phenomenal. You can't hardly find a place that has better food in the country, to be honest with you. So yeah, I spent quite a bit of time in Charleston in a previous job that I had. And I think during that job, I probably put on about 20, 30 pounds.
Yeah.
So I had to quit or I was going to explode.
Yeah.
So, it was one of those things.
But dangerous for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, hey, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and then we'll get started on the business side of it.
Sure. So like I said, I'm French Canadian. I was born in Ottawa, the capital of Canada. And I was a teacher and then a school administrator in rural Quebec. So worked with students, taught English as a second language because my first language is French. And moved here in 2016 and taught a little bit in South Carolina, but then kind of funny story, not funny so much. I was here on my husband's visa and my husband and I split and he went back to Canada. So I wasn't allowed to stay here legally unless I found a way to stay down here. So that's what I did. I found a lawyer and he says, well, you can start a business. And I'm thinking, I don't know, what business would I start? And then I looked into coaching. I got certified as a coach. I completely fell in love with it, went to immigration and they gave me a 5-year visa. So, it's a whole other thing if you don't know anything about immigration and visas. It's been quite a road, but it brought me into coaching, which I adore.
Absolutely. So why did you choose coaching? What was it about coaching that appealed to you?
There was nothing, like I couldn't think. I wasn't going to open a shoe store or a coffee shop. Like that just wasn't me. And a friend of mine talked to me about coaching. And actually, at first I went, life coaching? Why do people need life coaching? I mean, that sounds flaky. Why don't you just lead your life, type of thing. And then I started looking into it and I went, wow, this is something I had no clue. I had no clue what it meant to be a coach. And so I looked in even more and then I found a school and I got certified and it's changed my life because I have a coach and it's amazing what comes from it, how it can completely change your life, put your life on a whole different trajectory and helps you take control of your life.
And it's amazing. I think probably 9 out of 10, every 10 coaches that I interview on this show have a coach of their own. And I think it's so important for us to have that, not only just as a life coach, but really as a business coach, giving us direction, mentors, people who are competent and have experience that we don't have that can share that with us and help us in our everyday business and in our everyday life. So that's awesome. So now you really carved down a niche. You found a niche dealing primarily with, in the surgical environment. So what inspired you to do that?
There's a funny story there. I was certified. I hadn't coached for money yet. I hadn't had a client. And there was an event in Charleston, downtown Charleston, a fundraiser. And it was a fancy pants thing at the Galliard Center. And a friend of mine said, why don't you put free coaching sessions in the silent auction? And I'm like, I got nothing to lose, right? And my dad, he says to me, what if nobody bids on it? Wouldn't that be embarrassing? And I'm like, I'm glad I didn't listen to him. I put in my 3 free coaching sessions. 4 days later, I get a phone call And he says, "Hi, I'm Dr. So and so. I'm a pediatric transplant surgeon. I bid on your coaching." And I was like, "Oh."
Uh-oh. I wasn't expecting that, right?
Wasn't expecting that. First client ever. I'm going, "Holy cow. Okay, then." So I go into his office. He's a young physician, surgeon, superstar guy. And so he was into coaching. He had tried it before. It hadn't worked out, but wanted to try it again. And so I gave him the first free session and then the second free session. And I had never had a paid client. And I went into the third one and go, "Is he going to pay now? After this?" 5 years later, he's still my client. And
Wow.
he has opened me up. The chair of surgery, that his chair wanted to meet me to see what was going on with this guy. And then he hired me for a group of his faculty. And then it's just been going from there. So I didn't choose it because I know nothing about medicine. And
Right.
it has nothing to do with it. It's not mentorship, it's coaching. So it's
Right.
it's really different.
Right.
So
So just like in any business, I mean, we have certain talents, and that's really where we kind of, hang our shingle, right? So in his particular case, he was a surgeon. There's other people like him, and that's where his talents lied, and that's or still do, I would imagine, and really where his focus was and what it wanted to be. But the business side of it, maybe a little bit different. That's where you came in and kind of helped him with that, I would imagine. Is that correct?
Well, he my most of my physicians are in academic centers, so it has nothing to do with business. It
Oh, okay.
has no, right, no. I coach on self-leadership, how you show
Ah,
up, and how you communicate and how other people experience you. And that's how you get outcomes. So that's why I don't coach just physicians, but it seems to be my niche. Anyone
yeah,
who, and that's the coaching that I get, it's breaking through your beliefs and what's going on with you. And that's why a coach needs a coach, because I can't bring my clients any further than I go when it comes to breaking through my beliefs and things that are getting in my way and I don't realize they're getting in my way. So I'll
right.
help. When it says in my tagline, working in the OR, I've never been in an OR. That's not the point. I don't know how they work, except on the table, but not standing up and seeing what's going on. So no, the idea is, why is it that I can't? People don't want to operate with me, like the team. Why is it that I have
Mm,
this reputation of being not really nice and I'm yelling at people and but the stakes are high, right? There's an operation going on here. There's a case and they have to. So ways of communicating and getting your ego out of the way when it's necessary, because people say, "Oh, yeah, physicians have big egos." They need them. They're in front of situations that they need to be very sure of themselves when they're doing something. However, there's a time when it serves you and at times when it doesn't serve you. So it's very much
mhm.
about self-awareness. What's going on
So
right now?
So really kind of a leadership coaching is really where what you center is really where your career has led you to. So what are some of the common problems you find with the people that you're working with?
Clarity, sometimes it's clarity on their goals because, for us people who don't know what it's like to be a physician, it's not, I've learned that, there's clarity on what do I want to do. In academic centers, they do research, they teach, do they want to go into hospital systems? Do they want to go more into academia? So to get them just clarity on where they want to go, and that can be, doesn't have to be a physician, could be anybody. After that, it could be communicating with colleagues. Sometimes there's a bit of a power struggle going on, and sometimes it's just miscommunication. Sometimes people put up walls of say, "Oh, the boss wants to meet you," or somebody wants to meet you, and you're like, "What I do?" It's like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 hang on. Maybe you didn't do anything. Maybe they want to meet you because." So, sometimes people are going in with their guns and their lawyers, and it's like, figuratively speaking, and going, and I was like, "Hey, hang on, maybe that's not it." And if you do that, well, what outcome is going to come from it? So let's just not make assumptions and get more information and go in there as someone who is discovering what's going on and building a relationship with people. And then what's happened is they walk out of this meeting that they were so afraid of or skeptical about, and it was fine. They learned to, how to communicate better and how to grow the relationship, because it's all about relationships. When
Hmm.
you're in whether, it's your spouse or the cashier at the grocery store or your colleagues, or it doesn't matter who it is. If you can have self-awareness when you're talking to someone and realizing that they're a person and how they're experiencing you. Because we don't know how people experience us. We have to ask
Hmm.
them, what's it like to be in a
Hmm.
relationship with me? Like, we don't know. We assume, but sometimes we get the answer of, well, it's kind of difficult because, and you're like, oh, I didn't realize that's not what I want to have you go through when you're with me. I don't want you to experience that. So we don't know. So sometimes we have to ask. Sometimes we have to be self-aware. We have to be ready to hear what other people are going to say. And so that's all self-leadership.
Absolutely. So, I mean, like in business, if you do the wrong thing, if you're not communicating with people, your downline, your upline, whatever the case might be, just with the people you interact with in general, then you can go out of business. But in the OR, it's a lot more serious than that, I would imagine. So, I mean, what is your process then when you're meeting maybe with a new surgeon and I mean, did they reach out to you and ask for help, or are you soliciting to try to get that kind of business, or is it how do you get your referrals for that type of business?
Um, Different ways. Some people I get, well, mostly out of referrals. Sometimes
Mhm.
it's superior, like their boss, the chair, the chief of the division that say, okay, I'd like you to help me with different physicians. And it's not because they have a problem, or sometimes things are tough. There's okay, difficult personality, needs to get along better, all of these. But sometimes it's like, this guy's gonna has the potential, or this gal has the potential to be a superstar, and I want you to help him or her get clear and move forward and have the confidence to deal with it. Sometimes they're junior, let's say they've just become attending, and then they're like, "Well, yeah, but I'm junior." Well, how long are you gonna be junior? Like, junior, when do you graduate from junior? You've been junior 3 years now? Like, now we're going on 4 years? Like, you're always making an excuse for yourself why you're not going forward because you think you're not good enough or you're still junior. When are you gonna be senior? Like, let's look at this for a minute, and get these beliefs and these things out of the way for them to reach, because they're high achievers. I mean, they're physicians.
Right.
So, yeah, and changing that mindset, because being in medical school is one thing, because it's a race to, in the sense of you have to be the best to get into the best schools and then to the best residencies, but it's, you got to concentrate on yourself. But then when you get there, you're part of a team. So now, oh, how do you play as part of a team versus
Mm.
playing individual, and changing
Mhm.
that mindset? And then after that, if you're a physician and surgeon, and then you get into a leadership role, oh, it's not all about you anymore. It's about raising the
Mhm.
water so all the boats go up. Oh,
Right.
okay. So that's a whole other way of seeing things. Now you have other people and their success is your success. So it doesn't
Mhm.
always have to be your success alone. So getting them into that mindset. So and that's what happens. And then so when someone's going into a leadership role, sometimes I'll have someone in their teams hire me to help them, create leadership skills and show up more as a leader rather than just a one person show.
So are most of the people you're working with, like, in transition? So, like you mentioned that, like, the person who's like a 3-year resident, I mean, that person has obviously been in there for a little while, but then also you mentioned that somebody who's moved into a different role, maybe in a more of a leadership role. So is that transition, is that the biggest challenge that you kinda come across?
Not really. Some people, like, I've got 65-year-old physician clients, and I've got like 40-year-old physician clients. And yeah, sometimes it's a transition. Sometimes it's okay. I feel like to be I want to lead more of an upgraded life. Like, this is difficult. I want to find time to be with my family. I want to
Mhm.
find time. This is crazy. I don't know. There's so much, noise around here in this department. People are always complaining. Da, 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 da. You know how to focus on leading the life and not being a victim of your life, but owning
Mhm.
it, and not being at the end. Some people, it's their calendar, overwhelmed by the calendar. It's like, oh, one of my clients, like, okay, so everybody's putting stuff on your calendar but you. So you're like the victim of your calendar. Why aren't you owning your own calendar? It's your calendar. And then
Mhm.
being able to see, well, take charge of it. Everybody's making your schedule for you. You're a grown man, make your own schedule. And then it's getting into, oh, wait a minute. Well, then block some time and do this and do that and make the choices and own your choices.
Right.
Say yes to that meeting, say no to that meeting, and own it. And just becoming in that self-leadership, how you show up and how you own your decisions, whatever they are. If you're saying no to something, own it. Whatever it's your decision.
It almost sounds like, yeah, you're providing maybe a little tough love to some of these folks and
Oh,
helping them to get out of their own way.
oh, definitely. I'm not here to I'm in a very intimate partnership with my clients, and I'm not there to be a yes woman and say good job. Yes, for something that's not. If how
Mhm.
you show up with me in the coaching sessions, I don't take personally, but if you're showing up with me as someone who's late, who doesn't keep their agreements, who doesn't, well, then you're showing up that way with someone else. So
Right.
you hired me to help you break through that. So I'm not going to pretend it's okay when it's not.
Right.
And it's
Right.
not about me. It's not about you being late for my appointment. But if you're always late, well, then you're probably late other places. So that's how you're showing up. So so yeah, there's tough love, absolutely,
Yeah.
but it's all from a place of love, but it's the truth. The
Absolutely.
nonsense coach. I mean, it's what's going on.
Absolutely. I think a lot of times we don't realize some of the things that the habits that we get into, maybe like being late, or maybe like we were a little over aggressive, or maybe we're not aggressive enough. I mean, so those are the things that you try to unpack when you're dealing with folks.
Sure, and I don't necessarily tell them coaching isn't about it's different from mentorship. I'm not a professional in what they do. I asked my clients questions for them to come up with. So how did it go with that? Who are you being? Because it's all about who you're being. If you're being someone who's aggressive, if you're being someone who's angry, if you're being someone who's you're going to act in a particular way. If you're being someone who's empathetic, being someone friendly, well, you're acting a different way. So once you get self-aware of who you're being in a situation, what you're bringing into a conversation, then you can choose once again how you're going to present yourself and get the outcomes that you want. So yeah, being it's all about, it's not what you're doing, it's who you're being. And when you figure out who you want to be in a situation, then it dictates what you got to do.
So, I mean, that sounds interesting. I really like what you're saying. So, what is your process when you meet with maybe a new physician or a person that you're trying to, help? What is the process that you go through with that person so that you can identify where maybe the problems are, the challenges are, or whatever the case might be, and get them moving in the right direction?
Well, we meet and talk about what they'd like to create in their life. What is it that's going? What's not going? How would you like it to be going? And it's everything's tailored. Like I don't have a script or anything like that. It's we make an agreement that we're going to meet, and everything's obviously confidential and non-judgmental. And it's like, where do we want to go? Well, when they come up with all kinds of different. This is difficult. Colleagues are difficult. Um, I don't know. People don't want to operate with me because apparently I'm not a nice person, but I don't understand why because I'm not doing anything like I like my team. I don't feel like so. I was like, okay, well, let's look at that and give me an example of that and what happened. And then, oh, maybe in that case, how do you figure perhaps the other person experienced that? And so we just go through the talking and then trying to come to realizations. And then there's always action items. Every coaching session comes with action items that I don't necessarily tell the client, but you come up, okay, so can we make an agreement that you will have a conversation with that particular person, or that when you go into that meeting, you don't speak much because you're afraid people think I feel like I don't speak enough. I feel like people won't listen to me, or everybody's such a senior to me that I don't dare say anything. Well, what if you said something? Okay, so what? Well, I spoke up in the meeting and I said, things as it seems to be basic, but it's not. I mean, it happens to everybody. Their perception of themselves. That I said, is that true? When you ask yourself what's true and what's not true. Oh, so it's a story going on here because there's no data, right? Where's the data? And I kind of
Mhm.
have fun with that with the physicians because you guys are scientists. You base stuff on data. And look at all the
Mhm.
stories you're coming up with that's based on nothing,
Right.
So
Right.
we've come like, where's the data for that? Right? Could it be that you're making this up and you're making assumptions about things that are, oh, I hadn't thought of that. Yeah, assumptions are dangerous, you know? So
That's super interesting, because you have to kind of communicate differently with each type of person. So, even in business, even in sales, for instance, I mean, everybody that you meet collects information differently. They relate information differently. So you really kind of have to learn to speak their language to get through to them, and then get them to kind of speak the language of the people they're dealing with in order to be able to communicate with those folks as well. So, I,
absolutely. And sometimes they're physicians that come from another part of the country and they come to South Carolina. Well, South Carolina, it isn't hustle bustle like it is up north. And sometimes people are, very direct, and people here are like, it's like, okay, know who you're talking to, know who you're talking to. What you could have said in one place probably, it obviously doesn't seem to be acceptable here. You seem to be ruffling feathers. So let's take a look at that. Yeah, but that doesn't
Mhm.
make sense. Why are they so? It is what it is. Now, how can you get the outcomes you want? What power do you have to make these relationships better? Well, I suppose I could use different words. And sometimes I help them make up what words, in a sense. When you say it this way, it really comes across like this. But if you said it that way, it means the same thing, but you're coming across in a way that the people will be a lot more open to cooperate with you. So
Mhm.
communication is so key.
Yeah, it's about changing ourselves, not necessarily trying to change the people that we're communicating
Oh,
with. And I think a lot of people think the other way. They think that I can change them, and that's really not going to ever happen, or rarely will it ever happen. It's really about taking that look in the mirror and changing yourself.
it's the only power you have, And if you're like, well, I don't like that person, but you have to work with him or her, well, what are you going to do? Continue to
Yep.
put your foot down and be wrong? Or are you going to make it that you don't have to be best friends, but can you communicate in a way that it doesn't weigh you down and that it doesn't ruin your whole day? I mean, some people get into work and something happens and their whole day is ruined. It's like, why are
Mhm.
you giving that so much power? It could be silly as traffic. You come in all in a bad mood because the traffic was awful. Well, my gosh, you're giving traffic a lot of power. Your day's already ruined and it's only 8 a.m. It's like, if you don't do that, you have no, you have no power over traffic.
Yes.
Take a breath. And if you have no power over your colleague, well, you have your own power. You can take what it is and not and or let it go. It's your choice.
I mean, those
And
are words to live by. I love that.
yeah, but the thing is, yeah, it sounds so easy, Michelle, when you say that. It's not easy. It's simple,
No.
it takes practice. So that's where the self-awareness comes in. "Oh, look at me getting all riled up because the traffic's really bad. Look at me, look at oh, wait, I think I'm gonna calm down and take a breath." And going through this, "Oh, here's Bobby. Oh, Bobby gets on my nerves. Okay, I'm gonna need to take a breath now and not let him get to me because, it's important." And before you get all there's a point of self-awareness, and before it gets into conflict or trouble of any kind, you say, "Oh, wait a minute. Look at me, how I'm reacting in my body. What choices do I have? Well, I can do this or I can do that." And then own your choice.
It's just like you're dealing with surgeons, and that, being a doctor, they call it a practice.
Yeah.
And really what you're talking about, I mean, that's not going to, the light bulb isn't going to go on just immediately. And when it does, it still takes practice. You still have to continue to work on it for pretty much the rest of your life. And I think that's not only in just the trade that you're working with, but I mean,
No.
in any business, and in life as well.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's why coaching's a process. It makes you very self-aware about things going on, and then after you practice it, it becomes automatic. It's like, when you start to drive a car, you're very aware of everything, and then after a
Hmm.
while, now you drive and you don't even you don't even pay attention. It becomes a habit, and it's the same
Right.
thing with self-awareness and how we deal with people. It's
Yeah.
it's becoming a practice of taking a breath before you address something, and, it changes your life 'cause, I've seen it in a lot of people and I see it in myself,
Yeah.
how I react to adversity, how I let it get to me.
Yeah.
And, it just makes life so much more pleasant.
Oh, 100%, 100%. Hey, look, we're getting very close to the end of our time together. Any final thoughts you'd like to leave our audience with today?
Um, if you can do that, if you can find a way to have someone in your life that can help you build your self-awareness and not make assumptions of things, life is so much more, like I said earlier, pleasant. And anybody can do it. Don't think you can't. It's practice, but it's worth it because it's exponential. That's what coaching does to you. And that's why I love it so much, doing it and receiving it. I've got a call this afternoon with my coach, and it's just great. It's not like going to the gym. You build the muscle, you stop going to the gym, the muscle's gone. Coaching is exponential. You build habits and they stay with you. So
Absolutely.
that's why I love it so much.
Well, I could tell you have a passion for what you do, and you've been a wonderful guest. I really appreciate you being on the show today, Michelle.
Well, thank you, Neal. It's been quite a treat. Very, very nice of you to invite me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, folks, that's our show for today. So thrilled you could be with us. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave us a review. Business Breakthroughs is sponsored by Titan Media Works, providing podcast production and guest booking services for those people who want to be in the podcasting space. Check us out at titanmediaworks.com. That's work spelled WORX. And also check out all of our other great hosts in the Small Business Delivered Network at smallbusinessdelivered.com. And still, until next time, stay tuned for more business breakthroughs. Stay positive and keep breaking through. Thanks a lot and have a great day. Bye-bye.